On behalf of everyone at WNET, congratulations to Steve Adubato and the Caucus Educational Corporation on 25 great years of broadcasting.
Hi, I'm Bernie Flynn. At New Jersey Manufacturers Insurance Company, we believe that all citizens need to be informed about the important issues that affect their daily lives. That's why we're proud to support programming produced by Caucus Educational Corporation and their partners in public television.
This special edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato is brought to you from the Tisch WNET studios at Lincoln Center. Funding has been provided by Hackensack University Health Network, Sun National Bank, New Jersey Natural Gas, proud to support education in our communities. United Water, making the planet sustainable is the best job on earth. County College of Morris, connecting learning and life. The Merck Company Foundation. And by Fedway Associates, Inc. Promotional support provided by the Star Ledger and NJ.com, Everything Jersey. And by the New Jersey Business and Industry Association and its monthly magazine, New Jersey Business.
This is One-on-One.
When you first heard that they were doing Charlie Rose and Gayle King, didn't you go, what?
People like laughing at others, so I don't mind if the other is me.
See, you go right into the character. That's what it is.
I'm bringing families together a half an hour each week. Man, I'm doing something special.
And so I do feel successful.
Hi, I'm Steve Adubato. Welcome to the Tisch WNET studios. It is my honor, my pleasure to introduce Sally Potter, director of a compelling movie. It is called Ginger and Rosa. Welcome to our studios.
Thank you.
Set the stage before we see a clip from Ginger and Rosa. Set the context for us. These are two girls, ages...
16 going on 17.
Based where?
In 1962 in London, in the UK, height of the Cold War, Cuban Missile Crisis.
And we were talking about this. You were younger than that in 1962.
Yeah, I was about 12.
But you remember that time.
I remember it absolutely vividly. We really all thought the world might blow up tomorrow morning and that this was it.
So Kennedy and Khrushchev,
yes,
you know, eyeballing each other.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Castro doing his thing.
Yes.
But, you know, very complex and scary time, no?
Incredibly scary. I mean, viscerally scary. People really felt that this was possibly the end of their lives. And I think out of that grew this first ever popular protest movement. People took to the streets in desperation. They didn't know what else they could do. Mothers pushed their babies in prams, grandparents walked along, students, everybody basically just saying, no, you know, we have to live, we have to save this earth, our earth, and the people on it.
And the movie is based geographically in England.
Yeah.
Okay, and these two young women are part of something. They're part anti-nuclear, if you will.
Yeah.
Is movement, is it fair to say?
Yeah, I think, the first of such movements, if you like, popular movements of people joining together to try and do something about something that they felt powerless, really, to change, but they tried to do their bit. And these, of course, are teenagers, too. They're growing up. They're not only trying to figure out how to save the world, but also how to shrink their genes, you know.
Yeah, right. Trying to balance those things, and,
yeah.
Getting their priorities right. This is a clip from Ginger and Rosa. It's an important film. Let's take a look.
We would always be best friends. It says here that boys don't like girls who are too serious. Interesting.
Where the hell have you been?
We were just roving about, being free.
Soviet missiles could wipe off the face of the Earth, the United States and Great Britain.
The whole world could be blown to pieces any minute.
My darling Ginger.
Well, she's right. It is getting serious.
The only life is the one we have now.
Wow. Compelling was the right word, is the right word. The cast. I'm looking at Christina Hendricks from Mad Men, Oliver Platt, who is fabulous, who was in the background. Set the cast. And then you also told me there's another relatively well-known actress in it, Annette Bening.
It's really like a dream cast, actually, and everybody played so generously and played together. It's like an ensemble, even though individually they're all really, really big names.
What does it mean to play generously?
Oh, It's an interesting question. It means to give yourself without always thinking of yourself as the center of everything. It means you're contributing to the whole and not just concentrating on your own part. It's kind of the opposite of narcissism, actually. And I think all actors at heart want to be part of something. They want to be part of, in a way, a family of players who are creating something together that means something. I think often there's a feeling of, from actors, that they're doing things that they don't quite identify with. They do their best, but it's not completely satisfying. It doesn't push them somewhere they really want to go. But all of these actors really gave themselves completely and totally, both to the process, a fast shoot too, and to the ideas, and to each other. They loved each other in a very cooperative, sweet way, and gave their skills to each other, I think, by playing together.
It's interesting. You talk about, we talk about some of these very big names and prominent people, but the two young actresses, talk about how these young, clearly talented actresses interacted with such a prominent and dominant cast.
Well, Elle Fanning, who is unrecognizable with her red hair, normally a blonde, wonderful young actor from Los Angeles, who's been acting since she was teeny-weeny, but transformed herself completely into this young girl from London in 1962, playing a 16-year-old, even though she was 13 at the time. Extraordinary. And it was the end of a long casting search. 2,000 girls auditioned, partly on Facebook. I met about 200 of them. And then I was introduced by Heidi Levitt, casting director in LA, to Elle, and I was completely blown away and flew to LA. I saw a quality of transparency, emotional directness, honesty, truth in acting, no habits, no cliches, no phony child acting. I mean, extraordinary. And when I met her and worked with her, she had the quality of the best professional actors that I worked with, which is she knew how to work with notes. So she would offer something up. You'd give her a note and suggest perhaps another way of working. She'd look and listen very attentively. Got it, she'd say, and immediately work with it like food. You know, she was eating the notes. It was wonderful, and she had an ability to focus and work really hard in rehearsal and in preparation, and then at the moment of shooting to arrive as if completely spontaneously and free in the moment, which gives her an incredible charismatic radiance. And she was playing with Alice Englert,
who's a newcomer.
Who's a newcomer.
How tough is that for you? Sorry for interrupting. How tough is that for you as a director to have such a newcomer in a situation like that?
Not tough at all. Exciting, thrilling. To work with somebody at the beginning of their working life, before habits have developed, where all in a way, the idealism and enthusiasm is there, and to be able to create a safe and yet tough atmosphere where the utmost professionalism is being demanded and the highest standards, and a respectful atmosphere, but one in which somebody feels safe enough to develop. And she, Alice and Elle, who, although they were in fact different ages, managed to sort of morph into 16-year-olds from the UK from this period in a quite magical way. Worked very cooperatively together as well.
This film, I know, it's such a talk about cliches. Now I'm getting me self-conscious because I'm going to ask a question that sounds like it's driven by a cliche. What it is that you want people to take away from this film? They'll take away whatever they take away.
Yeah.
But this is connected to you on a very visceral and deep level. And,
yeah.
What would you hope people take away from this?
I hope that the original intention of the film, which was to make a connection between very, very profoundly personal and intimate feelings, suffering, loss, betrayal, disappointment, joy, hope, all those things, but things that we usually feel most deeply in a family context or in love affairs or in close personal relationships, to link that with a connected feeling with the biggest global events, in the face of which many people feel powerless, as if there's really nothing they can do. And to make it seem that the outside world and the inside world are really profoundly linked in each of us. The world is out there, the world is also within. And that was the driving impetus, if you like, behind the script. By the end of a story in which it is shown that there can be a great gap between word and deed, you can have the highest dreams and principles and feelings about freedom and yet act in a cruel way in the name of love.
Yes.
To, in a way, be more truthful with ourselves about what we're showing through what we do as well as what we say.
I only wish we had more time. And that sounds like a cliche, but in this case, it couldn't. It's never been more true.
Oh.
I want to thank you for joining us. Sally Potter is a multi-award-winning director. She's the director of Ginger and Rosa. I want to thank you for joining us, for sharing just a little bit with us on public television.
Thank you.
Stay right there.
Thank you very much.
Stay with us. We'll be right back right after this.
If you would like more information on this program, or if you'd like to express an opinion, email us at info@caucusnj.org. Visit us online at oneonone.org, or find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Steve Adubato, PhD.
Jeff Parness is founder and chairman of the New York Says Thank You Foundation, and Mia Toschi is co-director of the 9/12 Generation Project. I want to thank you both for joining us. Jeff, what were we just looking at right now?
That was the trailer to a film called New York Says Thank You, which followed our foundation around the country every year on the 9/11 anniversary for about 6 years, showing how we were taking all these survivors of 9/11 here in New York and helping to rebuild other communities around the United States hit by disaster as our way to pay it forward. And that film was also turned into an educational version of the film through the Lori Tisch Foundation, which is now the heart and soul of the 9/12 Generation Project, to teach kids the positive lessons of citizenship of 9/12.
This is the DVD. Log on to the website you're going to see on the air. This is how you can get information so you can get the DVD. And there are going to be two websites, your respective websites. Help us on this. How are your organizations connected?
Sure. Well, 9/12 Generation Project is actually the service learning division of New York Says Thank You Foundation. New York Says Thank You was started by a suggestion from my 5-year-old son back in 2003. He wanted to help kids in the California wildfires. And we drove a truck from New York to San Diego filled with relief supplies with a big sign that said New York Says Thank You, as our way to acknowledge all the help that people from around the country and around the world gave to New York after 9/11. A few months later, my son Evan was 5. He was watching the Weather Channel. He asked me, when I grow up, can I drive the truck if there's a tornado in Iowa? So New York Says Thank You grew out of that suggestion. It's become the country's largest volunteer service organization on the 9/11 anniversary, where we take volunteers from New York and disaster survivors from around the country, and we send them to different parts of the country where they had disaster to help folks rebuild. Out of New York Says Thank You, we've started a couple of other divisions, and for the next 10 years, we're really going to be focused on teaching kids the positive lessons of citizenship that emerged from 9/12, because if you just teach them about the tragedy of 9/11, you're not teaching them about the compassion and the humanity and the kindness, which is really actionable in any environment.
Talk about it for you.
Well, I actually came on as I'm a teacher, and I was down at the 9/11 Tribute Center, and the gentleman who runs that, Leah Yelpe, said, why don't you try and create a curriculum? Because there was no mandated curriculum in any of the schools in the nation. Even 2 blocks away, a lot of the kids that were now 8 years after 9/11 knew nothing about really the events. So somehow we hooked up, and I was able to, I was graciously asked to come on by Jeff, and it's such a great program because it not only teaches kids about 9/11 through the kind acts of 9/12, but as Jeff said, it also teaches compassion. It also teaches resilience. And teachers right now, they have something called character education, and it's such a huge thing for teachers. And this is such a great service learning project that they can do to incorporate into their character education.
You got me thinking a lot about this on a lot of levels. We actually had the head of the 9/11 Memorial in recently, who gave me this, right?
Okay.
That's why it's a great organization, and they were talking about the educational piece of it, but we have an 8-year-old son. We had a conversation with him recently about 9/11, and I began to realize that his understanding of it was not an understanding that was acceptable.
And I can tell you that I, as a teacher down, on the memorial pools, taking people, I have actually been there with kids from Australia that knew more than the kids that were 2 blocks away.
That's really what I'm talking about, because when we started talking to our son, I realized that we had the head of the 9/11 Memorial, and we were talking about what was going on there, and And our son said, well, what are you talking about?
Right.
And I said, I started describing, and he said, oh, that.
Right. Well,
and we didn't know where to go with it.
But you know, it's kind of interesting because the 9/12 Generation Project actually was a suggestion of one of the first educators at the 9/11 Memorial Museum years ago. And she made the comment to me, she said, in a way, New York Says Thank You solves one of the museum memorial's biggest problems, which is we're chartered to teach something retroactive that was negative, when what we really want to do is inspire young people to do positive things going forward. You know, we have a project in New York Says Thank You, which is also tied into 9/12 Generation Project called Stars of Hope.
What's Stars of Hope?
It's the simplest thing we.
Log on the website so we can get more. You can get more information. About
it is by far the simplest project we've ever come up with, and in a way the most powerful. 1-foot wooden stars, where children in communities hit by disaster or children in families other places could paint inspirational messages on these wooden stars.
Is that what we're looking at right there?
That's right. Which then get planted in communities hit by disaster all around the United States and around the world. We actually had our first Stars of Hope in Kesenu, Japan last year for the tsunami. And you know, it goes back to the fundamental ethic about what New York Says Thank You is about, which is how do you transform tragedy into something hopeful? And how do you empower children to be part of that? We did a Stars of Hope project recently in Breezy Point with all the children and the families who were displaced by Hurricane Sandy. They did the Stars of Hope, which were then shipped up to Newtown, Connecticut. So it's a way to empower these kids.
Given the tragedy of the shooting there.
That's right. And here are these families who've lost everything.
Right.
But it's how could you do these little service projects where you could connect them to kids, where they could feel empowered to help somebody in a geographic location that they might never be accessible to.
So, Mia, what's interesting is I'm listening to Jeff here. For parents who say, well, I can't talk to my kid. I can't, because our son, neither of our young sons were born.
Right.
Neither one of them were born. One's 10, one's 8.
Well, really, so many of the kids in school now, unless you're in middle or high school.
So you say, I can't talk to them. Not true, because it's how you frame it. And if you frame it in the context of 9/12, what do we do now? How do we help? It's a different conversation, is it not?
Absolutely, and that's one of the things that we say, what we do is about 9/12. And so that's sort of become the motto that these kids really are the 9/12 generation. And so, you know, by teaching them that they can survive, by focusing on the kind acts of compassion, it's just been amazing to see.
You know, I was going to add, over the years that we developed the 9/12 Generation Project, we had feedback from teachers and educators all around the country who were saying for 10 years we've struggled with how do we even broach the subject with kids? How do we not re-traumatize them with the images? And we've always said, well, if you only teach them about 9/11, you're only teaching them half the story. But if you teach them about 9/12, about how you transform tragedy into hope, about how you empower survivors as volunteers, about all the positive aspects that we experience as a nation, as a world on 9/12, then those lessons become timeless and universal for children born after 9/11. Forever, and it makes it applicable for them so when they see the next tragedy in Newtown, Connecticut, they know there's something simple for them to do.
Real quick, before I get out of here, a fireman, policeman, talk about them?
Sure. You know, our core volunteer group are made up of New York City firefighters and other first responders, ground zero construction workers. We empower them with the opportunity to do barn raisings all around the United States on the 9/11 anniversary. And then they're followed by disaster survivors who we've helped, who in turn pay it forward. With Hurricane Sandy, we actually had to turn the tides. Instead of traveling to other places around the United States, we made a commitment to rebuild 200 homes for underinsured New York City first responders, because they're the ones who take care of us. So for every first responder we get back in their home with their family, they could then concentrate on being the best EMT or firefighter or police officer and serve the greater community.
Your son's how old now?
My sons are 14 and 11, and they've been.
Son who was 5 then is how?
Yeah, he's now 14, and Josh, the younger one, who we can't also forget, he's the chairman of the Children's Building Committee. So there's a lot of stuff for kids to do.
Jeff and me, I want to thank you for joining us, and we wish you nothing but the best.
Well, thanks for having us.
Thank you so much.
An open invitation to continue to talk about your work, and hope folks log on the website to find out more, but also to do more. Thank you very much.
And bring your child on our next build.
Yes,
absolutely.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Okay, great job. Stay right there. I'm Steve Adubato. We're at the Tisch WNET studios, and there's important work going on. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Thank you very much.
Awesome.
If you would like more information on this program, or if you'd like to express an opinion, email us at info@caucusnj.org. Visit us online at oneonone.org, or find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Steve Adubato, PhD.
Bruce Bozzi is a fourth-generation family member and executive vice president of the incredible Palm Restaurant. Good to see you.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Full disclosure, I said this before the air. Before we got on the air, yours is one of my favorite restaurants.
Thank you.
The story, fascinating. Go 4 generations back.
Okay. My great-grandfather, Pio Bozzi. Pio.
1926.
1926.
They come here from where in Italy?
Parma.
Now, Parma. Everyone can pronounce that, right?
Yep, not everybody.
And so they come here and they want to call it
Parma.
Right?
Right. Exactly. That's my great-grandfather, and John Ganzi and Dominic,
and
the original
Mr. Ganzi
chef. Co-family, co-founder, and it's been 3 generations, 4th generation.
But they want to call it Parma, but they don't hear it correctly.
No, they go to the so the story's told. They go to the business license, the bureau, to get the stamp. They hear Palm, not Parma. And for 87 years, we have Palm Restaurant.
A lot of Italians have names that American government workers decided to give them because that's what they heard.
Right, exactly. Right? Exactly right.
The brand of the Palm. Right now, how many restaurants?
We have 28.
28. Yeah. Describe the brand for those who may not know it.
I would say the word brand is so funny when I think of the Palm because it's
reputation.
Yeah, but classic American fine dining. I think the brand, we're about family, we're about celebration. The Palm is really about a place to celebrate life, we feel. When you talk about the Palm, like we talked, people have stories about their family, their husbands, their wives, their kids. I think it's about excellence, it's about hospitality, it's friendly. Our waiters and our servers, they're supposed to bring their personalities to the table, and it's fun. I think the brand is just really about fun.
The other thing that's fun is when you look up on the walls at the Palm.
Yes.
There are caricatures of different people.
Yes.
The artwork, describe it.
Yeah, one of the rivets of the Palm sort of, in the 1930s, the original Palms here in New York on 2nd Avenue between 44th and 45th. Right. So that was just white walls. And it was in an area at the time where there were a lot of newspapers, a lot of columnists, a lot of cartoonists. They couldn't pay for their dinners. It was the early 30s, post-Great Depression. And my great-grandfather and Mr. Ganzi allowed them to draw on the walls. So they started to draw caricatures. So you go over there and you have some great cartoons from the day. And over time, people's faces got on the wall and it became a real sort of great way to celebrate our customers.
Right.
And they got a kick out of it, and it's now a rivet. So when you go into a Palm, you see people's faces.
People want to be on that wall.
They do.
And when they're not on the wall, I know some folks who wonder why they're not on the wall and say, it's a big deal.
It's a big deal. I mean, it's a big deal for us because it means a lot to us that people want to be on the wall, but it's a big deal. And it's like a time capsule. Yes. So it happens, and then you celebrate your life, and then your children and your grandchildren.
Sure.
And, and it's all about relationships at the Palm. So how you get on the wall is because...
Relationships,
history. You're coming, and then I say, Steve, it would be an honor, and we party, we celebrate.
Let me ask you, you guys went through, you're always going through some sort of refreshing of it or rebranding. Did you guys go through recently a time where you said, hey, we need to go back and take a look at where we are, what we're doing, what we need to do?
Yes. How do you keep an 80-plus year company moving forward? And I think one of the ingredients of success for us is that we've listened to our customers, so the menus changed because it was an Italian restaurant. Then our customers wanted steak. My great-grandfather would run up to the butcher, steaks. Then lobsters came into play. So in 2009, we found ourselves hitting 85. I had felt the company, we're a restaurant. We're sort of like a mom and pop restaurant in some way, but it became sort of very corporate to me. So we did a refresh, as you say, and we looked at everything within the 6-foot radius of the guest, and we looked at the plates and the menus and every food item and the color palette and the logo, and we changed about 200 different little things that added up to a lot that you didn't notice but you noticed type of thing, because we didn't want to offend any of our customers. You don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. You want to say, okay, and keep moving forward. So we did a number of great things like that.
How much do you love your role in all this? Someone might say, hey, wait a minute, it's the family business, but you have passion for this, and plus, you have an acting background as well.
I do.
Right? You have an acting background.
There was a time in my life.
Being out there is part of it. You are that brand as well, are you not?
Yeah, I love what I do, and I've been now working for my family full-time 20-plus years, roughly, but I always had summer jobs as a kid. And it wasn't what my original intention was.
That wasn't the game plan?
No, I thought I wanted to be an actor. I wanted to be, I saw my dad do it. I never saw my dad. He was a restaurant guy. He was in the restaurant. So I saw him on the weekends. Like I was at school. So it was tough, and I thought, you know, this isn't what I want with my life. But I kept going back to it, and as corny as it sounds, one day I found myself at Palm One in a room where my great-grandfather had been, my grandfather, my dad. I was good at it. People responded to me. There was a lot of love. There was a lot of history. And I loved it. And I said, you know what, this is a great thing. And how my role has evolved to today has been amazing, because sort of being the family sort of representative for the Ganzis and the Bozzis.
You're the guy.
It's a big deal, right? I mean, I work very close with Wally Ganzi. He's my father's partner. And he and I, you know, they're my mentors. I got my MBA in, you know, on 2nd Avenue, basically.
That doesn't sound corny at all. I mean, you talk about how that happened.
Yeah, it was nice.
Tremendous passion for it, even to this day.
Completely. It's a very, you know, there's not many businesses that can say this is their truth, you know, and not many restaurants. So I'm proud that we're doing it.
And tell everyone, we're right here in Manhattan. Give folks a sense again.
Sure. In Manhattan, 837 2nd Avenue, between 44th and 45th, you got 2 Palms. Times Square, 50th, Broadway and 8th. And we have 1 in Tribeca, and you know, we have a number of 26 other locations around the country.
That's good stuff, man.
Thank you, Steve.
Bruce Bozzi Jr., 4th generation member, the executive vice president of the Palm Restaurant, a terrific brand, a great restaurant, and we appreciate you coming into our studio and telling us just a little bit of the Palm story.
My pleasure.
Thank you. Wish you all the best. Thank you, Steve. Thank you.
One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating 25 years of broadcast excellence in partnership with St. Joseph's Healthcare System. Funding has been provided by Hackensack University Health Network, Sun National Bank, New Jersey Natural Gas, United Water, County College of Morris, the Merck Company Foundation, and by Fedway Associates, Inc. Transportation provided by Airbrook Limousine, serving the metropolitan New York, New Jersey area.
This healthcare message is brought to you by MD Advantage Insurance Company of New Jersey.
Choosing a new family doctor can be confusing. Check with your health insurer to see which physicians near you participate with your plan. Find out which hospitals the doctor uses and who covers when the doctor is away. And remember to schedule an appointment with your new doctor in advance to fill out any paperwork without the added stress of being sick.